Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Pashhammer. So today is a special day. I have a very unique guest on today. He is the winner of multiple events, including the world's first Aussie comp event that we had last weekend, Dragon's Grudge. He is known as Charlie Hanley, or the Cheese and Charlie, as some of us have nicknamed him. He keeps stealing our Scottish trophies. It's a great pleasure to have him. Charlie, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. Thank you, Pash. That's a lovely intro. I was born in Scotland, so I feel I have some blood right to take those trophies back to England with me.
I
But yeah,
mean,
delighted to be here.
there's nobody really currently contesting them at the moment, so it is a bit rude. You have the accolade of being the only man that has ever actually beaten me in a Scottish event, ruining my
Oh,
lossless record, which is not something that I'm
oh,
holding a
wow,
grudge on at all. I'm sure. Um,
that's lovely. All it took was rolling Masmic Mirage into Brazen Collar and Puppet twice in a row. That was my secret strategy.
if in doubt, just dice. Just rely on the
Yeah,
dice. So definitely.
yeah.
Okay. So why are we here today? Well, the reason we're here today is you have won our Aussie Comp event that Chris and I put together last weekend, and you won it with a really interesting high elf list. I think people are really curious as to how it plays, what your thoughts are, and how it sort of panned out for you. So that's what I wanted to do today is just go over the list and what you faced in bits and pieces. So just to highlight what the event was. It was an Aussie comp event, which was sort of a fairly hard comped event, at least compared to some of them. So there were restrictions. There was restrictions on characters, restrictions on duplicate rares, bits and pieces. There were scenarios that you needed to sort of aim for, and those scenarios encouraged core units of unit strength 10 or higher. There were a slightly different scoring system, so there was multiple sort of things in effect. Going into the event before it, what were your initial thoughts when you had a look at the pack? Did you know you were going to take high elves?
Yeah, well, I love the pack. The comp is awesome. I think we saw its efficacy play out at the event. There was so many innovative lists. There was only, I think, of the 22 or so lists there was only one that I recognized as a list, and the rest were all brand new concepts and ideas. So uh, I loved that it forced most of the egregious lists out of the meta and forced people to think. So that was my first thought was, yes, I want to play at this. Um, I didn't think I would play High Elves immediately because one of the rulings that you guys did was being more generous with points for diminished units, killing half of a unit or getting half the wounds on a dragon and so on. And I'm a vampire accounts player, and I thought, well, that is very beneficial with vampire accounts. I can just heal my stuff, and you're never getting those extra 50% and so on. So I initially looked at it as a vampire list, plus the the comp anti-flyer and anti, caps on big character budgets seemed to me to be quite good for the vampires. Um, However, that didn't play out in list writing. Uh, I quickly realized the vampires need their 1,000 points. Now, you don't have the 600 point dragon guy,
Yeah.
but you have so many little pieces, and you kind of need them all. At least from my perspective, the way I play.
Yeah.
So the vampire list I wrote for your Dragon's Grudge event for the Aussie rules uh, just didn't feel right.
Mhm.
It was really thin on what makes my vampire playstyle tick. So I quickly changed to looking at high elves. High elves have been my one true love for Warhammer Fantasy since I was 12, 13 years old, and I got a cabinet full of them behind me. But I've just not really been able to wheel them out for Old World because they weren't good enough, and I wanted to win more than anything.
Yeah.
But I felt that they really fit the comp. Um, Last year, almost a year ago, I think I was on Dowie After Dark's channel, um, going through what I thought to be the best hypothetical high elf list, which was a Sister of Avalor Death Star with all the toys. And what fit into your event's comp was not too far away from that. So it was still pretty close to what I thought the best high elf playstyle to be. So I as I played around with it, um, yeah, I figured, okay, I'm going to play High Elves this time.
Yeah, now that makes sense. I mean, in many ways, I think you've approached it the same as anyone else would. Any event that has a slightly different compact to it is you take what you think is the best list and then you go, right, how can I fit this into the comp? And sometimes it's a case of, oh, it's fine, I just need to tweak this and tweak that, and I've basically got my normal list. That's fine. Sometimes you have to start rewriting and making a lot of changes, at which point you're like, okay, I maybe should put that to the side, which is basically what it sounds like you've done with your vampires for this one. It didn't quite fit the playstyle you wanted to play, so you went for the high elves, which makes sense. Okay, well, without further ado, let's have a look at that high elf list. The event. So it's quite a unique list. So there's a few items there I want to sort of ask you about and find out what your thoughts are there. So you took, first of all, you have your, I'm just going to skip down to the general. You've got your Handmaiden with the Horn of Isha. She's the general. She's the one that activates your Sisters and Core, so that totally makes sense. She has the Loremaster's Cloak to give her the 4-up ward save against magic missiles for the unit, also makes sense. And she's supported by a couple of Archmages. So you've got one level 4 who has a Sea Guard on her with the Trickster's Pendant. So the Trickster's Pendant, that's one of the new Arcane Journal items. That's the one that, it's essentially like a Dispel Scroll. It adds an additional d6 to a Dispel attempt, but if it is a successful Dispel, then that wizard cannot cast any more spells for the turn. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So for 40 points, you're getting a Dispel Scroll, which is useful.
Yeah.
It is one use only. But it has two really good dynamics. So as you mentioned, if it successfully dispels an enemy spell, they can no longer cast that turn, which is very powerful, particularly if you're against one wizard armies. But the main reason I take it is for the mental damage it puts on your opponent. Right, they're concerned when you're going to use it.
Yeah.
And in my mind, certainly if I was playing into it, there's these sort of trash spells like Oaken Shield, these sort of spells that you probably just don't even roll it because you're really concerned about the arcane urgency you need to get off. So how many spells does the presence of a Trickster's Pendant prevent your opponent casting?
Yeah.
And making them concerned about how they're going to use their magic. So yeah, it can obviously it's plus. The math works out, it's plus 1.5 to dispel, so that's great. I need to dispel a key spell. I can turn off their magic for a turn, but I'm also in their head a bit, so I really like it. Yeah. And it's a new item, and I wanted to use new items.
Why not? Definitely. No, it's like you say, it's that sort of mind game, because as a competitive player, you're always thinking, what is the worst case scenario? Like, you know, you start going, do I need to cast a spell if I risk a miscast and then lose the rest of my phase? Well, in this case, it's almost like, do I want to risk casting the spell? Because if it's dispelled, I'll lose the rest of my spells altogether. So it's almost like a miscast almost. That kills the rest of your phase. So yeah, it's a really good little item. It's 40 points. Yeah, I can definitely see how that was useful. Okay. Let's have a look at the rest of it. So you have another Archmage, another level 4. This one's on Elementalism. It's got Warbow and Silvery Wand, extra spells. What sort of spells were you looking for on this one specifically?
So yeah, he's got 5 spells, and I really like that on Elementalism because you're always happy with what you roll. Generally, I think with Elementalism, the only bad spells Flaming Sword, and it's easy trade into Urge of an Arion, or there's a make. Stormfall is kind of awful, but it's still a spell that you can use.
Yeah.
I think 5 spells Elementalism is really appealing. Obviously, I was looking for TMP.
Yep.
More importantly, was Walk Between Worlds on the High Mage.
Yeah.
But as long as I had one of those 2 spells, I was pretty comfortable in the game. Ramparts is nice. Wind Blast is nice. Plague of Rust is pretty huge. But generally, Sisters don't mind shooting into armor that much. It just boosts it up a bit.
Yeah, it just really turns up the kill, doesn't it? It just gives you those extra wounds. So yeah, definitely, I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you had a Noble in there. You even had enough points for a Noble BSB with a Banner of Confidence. So remind me again what the Banner of Confidence does.
Yeah, so again, I wanted to play with the new items. This is no penalty to stand and shoot.
Right.
I'm rolling to hit. This is one thing that I, looking back, would change about the list. Generally with a Sister Star, when you are being charged, it's because you've chosen to be charged. Because you have Corn up, you're in open order, you're nice and wide, and you want to take that charge. So you're hitting on 2s anyway. So the Banner of Confidence, I feel a little bit wasted. but it was a new item. I wanted to play with it, and I only realized that it was wasted by playing with it at the event.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I might consider a war banner instead, because when the sisters do get into combat, they usually rack up 3-4 points of combat res on the stand and shoot, then they'll get 2 or 3 points with their strike first, so
Yeah.
having a bit more static res. Even a dragon gets into, you can turn him around to double out number and send him the other way.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's all maybe a little bit of static res would be more beneficial than the sort of one-off benefit of the standard shoot on your high ballistic scale anyway. So, okay, but
Yeah,
it's a new item, so it's definitely something it'd be quite interesting to test out, isn't it?
yeah,
Okay, and the rest of the list it looks quite interesting as well. It looks like everything has a place. So we have 8 Illyrian Reavers with short bows, champion, Ring of Fury. That's the other new item as well. Gives you the hammer hand bound spell. You've got a standard bearer, musician, and skirmishers. Yeah, okay, fair enough. What role did these guys play in your sort of plan? What was their aim?
yeah. So Heil's one of their weaknesses is core, unless you have the Handmaiden for the sisters, then you have an incredible core.
Yeah.
Illyrian Reavers are good. They're missing shields, I think, to make them really like a really solid pick. But the scenarios we played had objectives, and you needed unit strength of 10 on a core unit to take objectives. So the Illyrian Reavers were there as a movement 9 skirmish body to go and take objectives.
Yeah.
Because the scenario guaranteed first turn to one player, attacker, attacker, you always knew who was going first.
Yeah.
So scouts became really powerful. You didn't have to hedge on winning first turn, losing first turn. And you could even steal objectives turn one by scouting onto them.
Nasty.
So the Reavers did that role, and I gave them Ring of Fury again, wanting to play with new items. But my thought process was they're going to be contesting the side objectives, where my opponent probably has just left a block of core to control it. 15 archers like I have,
Yeah.
or similar. So my thought was they're going to be out of dispel range. So this Ring of Fury is going to go off, and it turns the Reavers into a really tasty threat to clean those objectives out as well.
Yeah. No, that's very solid. That's very interesting. Okay. But it's not the only core you took. You have quite a bit of more core left here. So you've got 15 Elven Archers. That seems fairly straightforward. 26 Sisters with a champion Bow the Seafarer. So it's another new item. This is clearly the core unit of the army. How did they perform? What was the thinking about the bow, and what tips have you got for us on that one?
Yeah, so the 15 archers was again just for the scenario. They sit on an objective and they just keep scoring it. But yeah, the whole army is the Sisters of Avalon. All the characters are in the unit. All the items I'm picking are revolving around this unit, and the unit is as big as I could get it in the comp.
Yep.
You give them stubborn every game, I think, because if you do get caught, you get that one get out of jail free card.
Yep.
And yeah, I gave Bow a Seafarer once again, trying to play with the new toys, but it's
a good one.
It's not just it's not just in there because it's new. I think it is incredible, especially you got it on a 6 ballistic skill champion. I would rather have it on the Handmaiden, but it doesn't make a huge difference. And given the points limit for the character budget, it just fit better on the unit champion on the High Sister.
Yeah.
It performed extremely well. I think its first shot killed 4 Knights of the Realm, just went straight through the unit.
Love it.
It did a few more of those. It took 3 wounds off an Iron Demon. It killed a Terrorgeist. It did 3 wounds to a Strigoi on Terrorgeist with
Love it.
range. So it had a great day, and it's one hell of a fun dice to roll.
It is, isn't it? It's really good. I found from using it that it's the one item I was hoping that we would have is a mobile bolt thrower. I was sort of hoping that we would have something similar when we have the Sky Cutters, and their bolt throwers would have through and through, because at least that would give it some sort of fun little flank game. But that wasn't to be. But when this appeared in the Arcane Journal, I was like, yes, finally you can play the little mini game of trying to catch people's flanks and just shoot lots and lots of.
Yeah, you can put it on a dude and put him in a Sky Cutter, and now you've got something really really fun.
That could be good.
It works really well in the Sisters. They are skirmishing. They usually have Walk Between Worlds. They usually have TMP, so you could find those angles, and particularly so with the Reavers, And with the sisters, because of the objective control thing, I was doing some pretty interesting spaghetti formations to touch different objectives and
Yep.
line things up, and have the high mage out of the spell range, but 20 inches away from him was the high sister with a bow of the seafarer getting a flank shot.
Nice.
Pretty flexible.
Yeah, it's massive skirmishing units. I mean, it's amazing. You can do a lot with them. They're quite
Yeah,
impressive. It's quite mad.
yeah,
Okay.
but as soon as a mathematically possible charge is lined up on them, you hit the panic button and you go to open order.
Yeah. Well, that's
Just you on the other side of the table, half your unit just dies instantly to not making coherency.
yeah, and I guess that's where your double movement comes in with Walk Between Worlds, because obviously your first move you can get into position, do all your shooting, do whatever
Yeah,
you need, and then your second move, your reserve move, you can close up into open order, and then suddenly you can have a whole line of attacks, or you
yeah,
can
exactly.
you can form up some ranks if you've got something that's definitely coming into you that turn. So yeah, definitely see the benefit of that. Of course, if necessary, you've got TMP as a get out of jail free card,
Yeah,
which is always quite useful. Okay, but that's not over. You still have points left over for a few more units. So you had 9 Dragon Princes. That might be the largest unit of Dragon Princes I've ever seen anyone field. With a champion, a Cloak of Beards. Ah, it's a fantastic item. Obsidian Lodestone for 1 MR1 and a standard bearer. Okay, Cloak of Beards. That's obviously the item that causes terror.
yeah.
How did that work for you? Did it do the magic?
It never came up, but I still think it's a good pick.
Yeah.
Um, the -1 to leadership on break tests, and the check that you force on your opponents when you declare the charge. These are really good things.
Yeah.
It never had any influence, but I do think it's good. The lodestone I think is good as well. The sisters are very hard to cast magic on because of their movement, and also they have their 4+ ward save to miss magic missiles. So I just wanted the extra protection. But the Dragon Princes were really the stars of the day.
Okay.
The sisters sort of set up a 35-inch no-fly zone where people just didn't want to come. But as soon as the shots start hitting, my opponents are obliged to come towards me, or they just slowly lose. And that means they're walking into the movement 8 Swiss stride charge range of the Dragon Princes,
Yep.
who with drilled are always getting their charges off.
Yeah.
The is really not a problem to manage. Then you can see that Eastern Sisters respond to Death Vision, or you can go into National Column. These guys had an absolute field day. I think they killed 1,000 points per battle.
Yeah.
They just through. It worked for the comp as well. Lots of bricks of core.
Yeah.
Dragon Princes love that.
Yeah.
And if you get a Fury Cane on them, they just go turbo.
Crazy amount of attacks. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see that definitely. Yeah. That's the dream, isn't it? Is you stick Fury of Cain on them, you get loads and loads of extra attacks, and you just chuck that at nice expendable core, and they'll just munch through that.
they're hideously expensive, but
Yeah.
I just really wanted to play them. I do love them, and I felt like they really worked with the army and with the comp,
Okay. Interesting.
and that played out. It also in my mind was what can my sisters not really deal with, and that is undead.
Yep.
You can't shoot 40 zombies off the board. It's a
Very
horrible waste
difficult.
of time, and they just get rezzed up. So I wanted something with first charge and with a lot of attacks for killing trash.
Yeah.
These guys are a perfect fit.
Excellent. So they go hand in hand with the sisters, I guess. Then, and it was impetuous ever an issue?
No, never an issue. Again, because of the range pressure I was exerting on my opponents, they had to come into my charge ranges. So, yeah, throughout the day, every charge they declared was one that I was going to declare.
Right. Fair enough.
It was never really an issue.
Never really a problem. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Sounds like you managed that quite well. So, on that case, we have one final unit left. You still had 100 points odd left, and this is 6 Swordmasters of Hoeth with drilled and a champion. Well, I've been trying to figure out what this does. So, what was the plan behind this? What's the secret tech? Tell me.
Yeah, so these guys had 2 very specific jobs and then a third job that never came up. The third job that never came up was stand in front of greenskins and receive charges
Okay.
and strike first. Never came up. But the really important job they had was stand behind the sisters, track the enemy behemoths so that the enemy behemoths charge when it connected with the sisters, any fullback in good order that the sisters made, popping their stubborn, would go through the swordmasters,
Yep.
and the enemy dragons follow up had to connect with the swordmasters.
Okay.
So that was their job, mirroring the movements of the enemy threat.
Mm-hmm.
Had that guaranteed get out. Sisters pop stubborn, go through the swordmasters.
Yep.
And very specifically, the swordmasters are 6 models
Mm-hmm.
that allows the blade lord to challenge out the enemy monster.
Yep.
And 5 models are left. They're not double outnumbered.
Yep.
They're not going to auto. They're not going to break on a fullback in good order. That was the thinking there.
Mm-hmm.
It never came up because the few times the sisters did get charged by BMOS, they just blew it up with strike first and
Nice.
stand and shoot. Had horn up, stand and shoot would do 5 wounds, strike first would do 2 or 3. So instead, they spent most of the time doing the second job, which was run around in annoying places and flee from threats.
Yeah.
A lot of that, and they did it very well.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit of the 2 mages I had, they're both sea guards, so I had 2 rallying cries. And I had a Pure of Heart BSB, so I had a 9 leadership, 12-inch bubble. So generally, they had 3 attempts to rally on leadership 9.
Yeah.
So they were
with a reroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a reroll. They had 4 attempts to rally on leadership 9.
That's pretty solid. I mean, to be fair, that's something that, you know, is probably quite subtle and people might not realize is, yes, taking a Handmaiden does mean you are leadership 8 general in the army, but that doesn't mean you only have leadership 8 because of the Pure of Heart honor on the noble, who is your BSB, so he can't be the general. He gives everybody within his command range leadership 9, and command range for a BSB is always 12 inches. So it's almost like having a general who's got leadership 9 that you can share with everybody.
It's pretty cute. It's pretty cute. And then the one unit who's running away is the Dragon Princes, and they have leadership 9.
Exactly.
But the special, like this sort of 500 points, what to do after I knew my core. I was very set on what I want to do with my core. I was very set on what I want to do with my characters, just figuring out a few items.
Yep.
I went through quite a lot of iterations with the specials. So I had 2 Phoenixes for a while. I was testing them. I tested, I think it was 9 Badlands Ogre Mercenaries.
Yep. Interesting.
They're pretty good. They get 4+ armor, motley crew. They can get green skin items, so you can get the Raggedy Flag for 4 weapon skill and additional combat res, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
And I realized High Elves are actually maybe the best mercenaries army in the game because you cannot use general's leadership, but you can use Pure of Heart.
Because it's not a leadership, because it's not the general's leadership. Interesting.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
And a lot of rallying cries. So the idea with the ogres is they're an amazing roadblock. And if and when they need to run, I have 2 rallying cries, and they're rallying on 9 leadership because of Pure of Heart. But in the end, I just felt the best about the Dragon Princess again because it dealt with the thing that I couldn't deal with, which was undead.
Which is undead. Yeah, that's definitely true. Okay, interesting. So it sounds like your list had each part of the list had a role, it had a purpose. There was a reason you had it. There doesn't seem like there's a lot of excess sort of spare capacity that you've got on there. So and that just shows you sort of the hallmark of a list that's sort of fine tuned. Everything serves a purpose. Everything has there. But I'm sure there'll be bits and pieces that you can tell us about that you'd improve on it. So yeah, on paper it looks interesting. It's something that you need to sort of figure out and see how it actually plays out. And on that, let's go through the games. So in your first round, you came up against Iain. Now, Iain is an experienced WTC, ETC player. He's played multiple different systems. He's a returning player to Old World, or Warhammer, I guess. So I know he might not have a huge amount of games under his belt, but he is generally a good player. As much as it pains me to say this, I hope he doesn't watch this. So let's see, what did he take? He took some Bretonnian Exiles, but looks like he had a Baron on a Royal Peg with a Gromrel Great Helm and a Virtue of Heroism for the Monster Slayer. He had an Outcast Wizard level 3, Prayer Icon, Ruby Ring and the Spell Scroll, quite zappy. He had a Paladin, Exile's Vow, Battle Standard, Barded Pegasus, Frontier Axe, Virtual Knight Template. Nice, so pretty choppy selection. Obviously no horn, the Falcon Horn in this one, because the comp restrictions limited the Falcon Horn to only
Errantry Crusade.
Errantry Crusade. I'm trying to think of my own compact there, but yes, the Errantry Crusade is what we limited to, which is probably the one item that's missing from here that you would normally see.
Yeah.
And then what else did we had? We had 10 Mounted Knights of the Realm, Antlers of the Great Hunt, Standard Bearer. Okay, it's no standard bearer with a banner of Shalons. I think that's no stand and shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, did that come up at any point?
No, they got treated to the Bow of the Seafarer turn one.
Nice.
I wasn't dealing with that.
Were you just kebabbing them, basically? That was,
I don't like that banner.
yeah. Yeah, that would definitely be painful. Okay, fair enough. So target priority. Okay, another unit of 10 mounted knights, obsidian stone for magic res, standard bearer of honorable warfare. Is that like reroll hits against units?
Ranged units.
Ranged
Yeah.
units. So this sounds on paper like it's got a lot of tech against somebody who has a big massive sister
Yeah.
star. Okay, and then he's got more peasants. He's got 28 human guard, blessed triptych, yeah, standard bearer, war banner, fair enough. Nice combat res bunker there. 10 peasant bowmen, 10 peasant bowmen. 3 Pegasus knights, because again the flying units were limited in this comp. Banner of the Zealous Knight for the Vanguard. That's quite nasty. 10 Prince's Brigands, which I've not seen before, and then Border Prince Bombard, which is again limited to just a single one. So what was your thoughts about this list? What was your plan going into it?
Yeah. No, great game against Iain McGregor. He was a real fun opponent. Um, I thought it was a good matchup for me. Sisters quite like shooting into Bretonnians in particular.
Yeah.
3 toughness and relying on their armor save. That's kind of where sisters like to play. And exiles are even more appealing because the ward save is useful for the Brets against shooting. And the veteran and the bombard don't really bother me at all in this list. The only thing the bombard could ever shoot at is the dragon princes, and they just hid behind terrain until they could countercharge, and that was it.
Nice.
So yeah, the sisters just blew up a unit of knights per turn, basically. The reavers ran around cleaning up objectives and pulling the yeoman guard towards objectives to try and take them back.
Yep.
I used the horn I had an opportunity to just shoot at a character, so I used the horn for that, and tried to receive a charge for stand and shoot as well, but that didn't get the full combo. But again, the dragon princes were the stars. They again under the range pressure of the sister shooting, the Bretonnians had to come forward at full speed.
Yep.
And the dragon princes, obviously having counter charge, could just position themselves, get the big Pegasus Knight charge declared on them. And one really good thing about the dragon princes is they have 5 initiative.
Yeah.
So on the counter charge, you're going up to 8, 9 initiative. So you're going first. And they just exploded the Pegasus Knights and sent them the other way.
Brilliant.
And then on the mages, I had 2 and he had 1. So it was the old 1 in, 1 out. I had 1 mage in dispel range and 1 out of dispel range. So I could contest him and the other one just free cast. And he had to emergency run his prophetess over to my Illyrian Reavers to try and magic missile them off because they were just taking this objective. And the objectives at this event were very important.
Yeah, worth a lot
Which
of points.
led to me having 2 mages free casting. So from there it was reasonably simple game, and got the 25-0.
You got the big win, yeah. You kindly cleaned up all the points that you could there. So, okay, so you're off to a good start. First round, you're up against a decent matchup for you in a sense, because obviously, there's a lot of nice, tasty targets for you to throw your Seafarer bow through, and a few other items. So yeah, that seems to be a pretty decent start. And then you're on to a second round. So in your second round, you faced Calum. Now Calum, he plays Chaos Dwarves, and he has been playing Chaos Dwarves since basically Old World started. So he's an experienced general in that front. So what did he bring? He brought a Sorcerer Prophet, level 4, on a Lamassu, Armour of Silvered Steel, 5 up ward save, Mantle of Stone, Elementalism. So quite a tough target. A Hobgoblin can, just a nice little chaffy unit. Yep, very nice. 20 Infernal Guard. Champion, Razor Banner. Ooh, quite nasty. This nasty shooting unit. Hobgoblin Cutthroats with Champion, Standard Musician. Yep, full command there. More Hobgoblin Cutthroats and more Hobgoblin Cutthroats. Basically all for capturing banners, capturing objectives. 10 Sneaky Gits. That's not a unit that I'm familiar with, so that's interesting.
They were amazing.
Oh, really?
They were the big threat.
Okay. How come?
Because they're ambushing, and they also have 20 shots when they come on, which is just nuts.
Wow.
They all shoot twice each. But because my strategy, right, is to have this big skirmished unit with different pieces in different positions, the fact that they could ambush on, declare a charge in the turn after they came on,
Yeah.
they could instantly win the game if I'm caught in a skirmishing formation where I can't make coherency.
Yeah.
So they just traumatized me. I had my Illyrian Reavers in a massive sort of necklace formation, just blocking as much of the board edge as I could.
Yeah.
And then the sword masters were doing the same, and then the sisters were in a spaghetti, just blocking board edges, just because of this one unit. But yeah, the game was great. Again, I was fortunate to get a really fun opponent to play against, a real good guy. It wasn't a list I wanted. I thought it was a bad matchup for me.
It looks like, I mean, Death Shrieker Locket Launcher, that's a big template. He's got Bull Centaur Renters. There's more. There's Dreadquake, Mortar, Goblin Wolf Riders. It seems like a lot of artillery and of course the Iron Demon. That's a pretty tough target even for the sisters to kill. How did that go down?
Yeah. A lot of tough things to shoot. 2 large blast war machines that can have magic attacks. So I saw was on the table, and I was like, oh, if he has magic attacks, I'm done, because these are just me dropping large blasts on my sisters, and Warp Between Worlds won't do a thing.
Yeah.
My great relief, neither of them had the magic attack upgrade. I think it's 30 points.
Yeah.
You get 1 fire reroll, so it's quite expensive.
It's expensive, and I'm pretty sure there's a downside to it. I think it might cause nastier misfires or something. There is some sort of downside to it, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I was fortunate not to run into that. He did have first turn guaranteed, so I just had my sisters as spread as humanly possible.
Right.
Killed a few with the first round of shooting, but from then on I was ethereal for the whole game.
Right.
So how did I go to play it? It was a very positional and tactical game for the main part. I positioned my dragon princes opposite the bull centaurs at all times, just ready to charge or counter charge them, because they were the only real come forward threat other than the Iron Demon. But the Iron Demon is a different kind of threat.
Yeah.
A bit slower, a bit easier to position around. I was on red alert for getting charged in skirmish formation. The sisters just put up again a 35-inch bubble that his Lamassu could not enter.
Right.
Which let me free cast. So I got all my spells off. I was taking a wound off the Iron Demon a turn, basically slowly chipping it down with longbows or magic missiles. Dragon Princess got in to the Bull Centaurs, just mashed them, went through them, and then started working through all these blocks of core that were holding objectives.
Yep.
I shot about 5 magic missiles into the 10 sneaky gits just because I was so obsessed with getting rid of them.
Yeah, fair enough.
So there's a serious investment into those guys. The Dragon Princes did get flanked by the big block of Infernal Guard, but there was just enough models. I was losing them one by one. And then on turn 6, the Illyrian Reavers finally got into the rear and shattered that unit and
saved them.
Win. Also on turn 6, the final longbow bolt arrow of the game hit the Iron Demon, went through everything and killed its last wound. So I got that.
Very scenic.
Then final Illyrian Reaver shortbow hit the last wound on the Dreadquake and got that.
Man.
So I kind of clutched out. I mean, I had won the game very comfortably, but that allowed me to get the
big win.
Yeah,
definitely. Wow. So it sounds like it came down to like very small margins in the end as well. Do you think if maybe, obviously it sounded like Calum played it quite conservatively. Do you think if he maybe played it a bit more aggressively and pushed it all forward a bit more, that would have been helpful, or would it have all just died faster?
Yeah, I think the Infernal Guard could have come on a bit to but then they're shooting at an ethereal unit. I don't think so. I mean, they were holding the objective for him, which was 200 points a game round, so that's not worth leaving.
Yeah, that's very true.
When his Llama suit, basically when he was slowly losing the game because I was ethereal and he couldn't hit me, he was forced to bring the Lamasu into dispel range, which means he's in sister range. So I immediately blew the horn, ripped nearly all his wounds off.
Yep.
He had to run away on 1 or 2 wounds, and I TMP'd forward and finished him off.
Right.
So I think I thought it was a really bad matchup, but then he didn't have the magic upgrades on his weapons, and then I thought, okay, this is pretty simple play from here, as long as I don't get caught.
Yeah.
In a silly position.
Okay. Interesting. So 2 games down, you've got maximum points from both of them. You're on 25 plus 25. You're on 50 points out of 50. That's a pretty good start. All right, and who have you got for the final game? It looks like you landed on Dave Hunter. Dave Hunter's another local player who's recently got back into Old World, but has played competitively for years and years and years before. And he's got vampire counts. Now, vampire counts, you're known as a vampire counts player, so surely this is probably, a home turf. It should be fairly straightforward. What did Dave bring? He brought a Strigoi Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist with Crown of the Damned, level 2 dark magic, Lord of the Night given him. Is that an extra spell?
Lord of the Night allows him to resurrect D6 wounds on the animal things, the bats, the dogs.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that's quite nasty. Okay, interesting. And he had a level 4 as well, Master Necromancer with an extra spell, Necromancy. 20 Crypt Ghouls, 20 Crypt Ghouls. Crypt Ghouls are nasty. Like I've come to respect Crypt Ghouls. They're quite they put out a lot of attacks and quite tricky to get rid of.
Losing value for money, 9 points, 4 toughness, 2 attacks, poison, reserve move, 5 move.
Skirmishers, open order.
Skirmishers, and then they have all the joys of being undead as well on top
Move
of that.
through cover just for fun, why not?
Yeah.
Let's just
for 9 points, it's pretty unbelievable.
Very, very, very difficult to get rid of. But they also had Bat Swarms, he had Dire Wolves. Now, he had 9 Vargheists here on the list, but I think that was ended up being changed to because he jumped over the flying cap. What was that in the end?
I changed them to Crypt Horrors.
Okay, that's the toughness 5 ones, isn't it?
Yeah, toughness 5. That's we're playing open order. It's actually not great for him versus me, but I downgrade him as a Vargheist really sensational. But against me, that
yeah,
quite good.
Yeah. Okay. And then we had 3 Felbats and a Terrorgeist. So a couple of Screams and quite a lot of fairly tough bodies running at you with a lot of low strength attacks, which to be honest, Sisters do not love. Obviously, they're not magical attacks, so if you do manage to go ethereal, it's going to be tricky. But it seems on paper like a fairly aggressive list. How did it play out? How did it go? And what was your plan going in?
Yeah, I was really unhappy to draw this because whilst I had my Dragon Princes for undead, I still didn't want to get undead.
Yeah.
Because my main unit is not very good at dealing with them. So it was a very scary matchup, especially he wasn't playing one of the typical VC lists. He had the 2 huge block of ghouls, block of zombies, so like lots of bodies.
Yeah.
Very, very unappealing for Sisters to shoot into or play into in general. And I didn't roll Fiery Convocation on High Magic, which is a Strength 4 large blast.
Yeah, good for dealing with blocks. Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, that would have been so fun, but devastatingly didn't get it. But yeah, all of these are from playing VC, so I understand the art, except the one from your event.
The little one there, yep, that's your High Elf trophy. You can definitely put that in pride of place.
It's High Elves, they live here.
That's beautiful.
So I understand the army very well, and I had a clear plan. Essentially, so again, I have the range pressure. He has to come to me. We had a nice big hill in the middle of the terrain. So I put my Dragon Princes behind the hill, facing across the board, so that stuff walking past it had to consider that charge threat.
Right.
The objectives in Game 3 were not in your deployment zones. They were spread across the middle. So I scouted the Illyrian Reavers into, again, a massive necklace of horses to just be touching the objectives and secure them all turn 1. his dogs charged me and chased me off, but I got those points. Then yeah, his army came towards me. The sisters were chipping wounds away on Terrorgeists with some long range shooting. And then the big moment that always comes versus undead, at least from my perspective when I'm playing them, is you have to declare a charge on them.
Right.
And you kind of know if you don't one shot the unit that you're hitting, you lose the game instantly.
Yeah, because they'll just
Because they'll
resurrect them and they'll just come
you
back.
stand back
Yeah.
up, screens start coming, you start getting flanked, and it all goes wrong.
Yeah.
So the Dragon Princes were lined up on 40 zombies. I had 9. I had them nice and wide. I think I had 1 in the back. Tried to Fury Cane them, didn't get it. But I had done the maths, and it was pretty nailed on. I'm hitting 2s, wounding 2s.
Easy.
So in we go. I had 15 attacks, hitting on 2s. I rolled, I think it was 7 1s.
You only get that sort of luck on Warhol. I've never heard of that in real life. That's impressive. Well done.
I could not believe it, and I sat there. I was like, "This cannot be how I lose this event. It can't be that." It was so bad. I still killed a bunch of them.
Yep.
I still had first charge. I crumbled them down. It was probably 8 or something left.
Yep.
But man, that was a dark moment. I did, immediately start thinking, how can I recover this? How can I get out of this? And the sad thing was, his level 4 is right behind that unit. So I knew if I'd smashed it, I won the game.
Yeah, because you overrun, you kill the level 4, things start to crumble, but bits and pieces are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a hard loss to take, but I thought, all right, how can I recover this? I've got a Terrorgeist on the left. I've got the Crypt Horrors on the right. I need to restrain from following up on the zombies, so I can at least declare a counter charge on the Terrorgeist. I'll move forward 1 inch because the zombies have just backed off. So that will give me strike first against everything, and it gets my lances back online. So that was the new plan, and it luckily worked out very well. It's quite an unusual situation wherein my knights are here, the zombies have backed off with a 2-inch gap. My counter charges wheeled me to close much of that gap down. So the Terrorgeist could only clip 1 model on the very end because he's blocked by his own zombies, and the Crypt Horrors could only clip 1 model on the end. So he was losing a lot of attacks from the Crypt Horrors.
Right.
I killed the one in base immediately, so I was just taking supporting attacks. And the way that my unit died, and that I was in base combat by the Crypt Horrors, essentially pulled his Terrorgeist out of base, and there was no way to fudge the units to restore base, so he lost his stomps, which was fortunate for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So I won the combat, went back into the zombies, and it was now inevitable, unstoppable, that it was going into his mage, so both the Terrorgeists ran towards the sisters.
Yep.
I got a good Vols on making off on the crown to get rid of the 4+ ward on the Strigoi.
Painful.
Blew the horn. Bow of the Seafarer kills 1 Terrorgeist. I take the charge from the other one with the Strigoi in it. Stand and shoot 7 wounds off him. He gets in. I have strike first. I take 3 more wounds off him. He's regened a few of them.
Yeah. But the
He
combat
kills 4 or
res.
5 sisters, and then he crumbles by like 19. So
that's insane.
and I was overrun into the mage, and then it was clean up from there.
Yeah.
So it went very well, but there was one moment where I've just lost by rolling 7 ones on 15 dice.
That's insane. Okay.
But we got it back.
Well, that's the thing. You don't expect that. That is somehow, that tends to happen. I think when playing High Elves, because your margin for error is so small that when something statistically unlikely does happen, it can cost you the whole event. You basically, like you say, you roll a very bad dice roll that is just improbable, and it happens, and then you suddenly might not be able to recover. Like High Elves can crumble very quickly, especially a sisters list with such soft targets. So I'm impressed you managed to pull that one off. So that is very good. Okay, well, that's you've done you've done 3 games. You've got 25 points in each, 25 out of 25. So you've got the full 75 points. You've smashed it out there. That's definitely impressive. Was your list exactly what you wanted it to be? Did it perform everything? Would you change anything if you went to the same event again?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it went very well. I got one vote for favorite opponent, which I think is my first time.
Oh, well done. Good. It's
I
impressive
was I was
to
delighted with that.
to be able to smash your opponents and still be still come out with an opponent's vote as well. Yeah, definitely. Well
Yeah,
done.
I'm pleased with that.
Well done.
But no, the list was perfect. So the Sister Star did its job of not dying and creating a 35-inch you cannot enter this zone space. They were coarse, they could control objectives, they applied the range pressure that forced my opponents to move. The combination with the Dragon Princes, getting those guaranteed charges was really good, and the Dragon Princes, I said, probably killed 3,000 points minimum over the 3 games. They had an absolute riot.
Brilliant.
And they were so fun to play with as well. They were so fun. Swordmasters never did the job that they were there for, but I still really liked
The
their
backup.
purpose. I could have done the same thing with 6 spearmen, which would cost less, but the Swordmasters still have that little interesting trick wherein you get charged by an initiative 3
Yep.
unit and they strike first.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to, plus I have really a soft spot for the models from previous editions.
Yeah.
Reavers were amazing, objective control, beating the snot out of other core units that were fighting over objectives. The 15 archers did their job, which was just sit on objective and just keep scoring it, and tickle one wound off of a monster a turn. The mages were perfect. I was nearly always out of dispel range because of all my mobility. BSB did his thing. One thing I would be interested in is dropping Pure of Heart on him, because the only units that would benefit from his leadership are the archers, who were never in range of his leadership, and the Illyrian Reavers, who were never in range of his leadership.
Right. Okay.
Looking to get Warden of Safri on him instead.
Okay.
Which gives him 3 Strength 6, AP 2, Strike First, Killing Blow, Magic attacks for 10 points. It's pretty insane.
That's not bad, is it? Have you got
10-point upgrade?
Have you got 10 points spare in your
No,
heroes?
something really nice needs to go. I could simply drop the banner entirely.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if I gave him a Dragon Helm, that would let me get Dragon Helm on as well for a 2-up save.
Oh yeah, fair enough. How much is the banner? I've got the high elf book here. The
Banner's
banner
20.
20, so 10 points for the honor and then 10 points for the dragon helm. That gives him what, a 3-up armor save?
Yeah,
it gives
and
him
the attacks.
And the attacks.
And
you
could switch to a shield and go to 2-up armor save if you wanted as well.
That's very true. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's yeah, having killing blow in a unit like that is actually kind of scary for Pegasus Knights, for any sort of lord on a non-monster mount. It's definitely something worth considering.
Dragon ogres as well. Okay, all the chaos stuff that can still hit you with the ensorcelled weapons.
Yeah.
Strike first, killing blows. Pretty interesting.
It's scary. You could lose a lot of models that way. Especially every time you kill a dragon ogre with kill and blow. It's it's so sweet. So good to see.
One of my practice games, I got flank charged by a unit of 9 dragon ogres, and make way with the BSB. He strikes first. He killing blows the 1 dragon ogre in base contact, and then I won combat and they fled. So
wonderful,
pretty good. But the actual star of the whole list is the Handmaiden, who probably did 0 wounds of the entire game.
Okay.
But she allowed me to take Sisters of Avalon as core.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's the magic. That's all she had to do. Yeah. It is definitely an archetype. The Sisters list is sort of what the High Elves are known to have, that and access to decent dragons. So it does feel like all the elements of the elves are sort of there. It's just trying to figure out how they best fit in, and that sort of really depends on what purpose you need them to serve, and what are the restrictions that are in place, what are the compacts, what are the scenarios and things like that. What did you think of the scenarios overall? What did you think of the compact? How that fit in? What's your sort of thoughts on that? What's your review on it?
Yeah. So I think we touched on it at the start of the video, but for me, the compact allowed me to take a version of High Elves that I thought was pretty close to how I'd play them uncomped anyway.
Yep.
the big sister star, the double level 4. Just a few changes. Obviously, I wouldn't have the archers and these sorts of things, but the comp really destroyed my vision or how I play vampire counts, and
Okay.
it let me play high elves in the way I think they should be played. Well, the way I prefer to play them. Anyway, the scenarios, I loved them. The objectives were really important, right? They were worth, I think it was 200 points a game round.
Yeah.
A turn, sorry. So yeah, to get the maximum score, they were crucial,
Yeah.
and it forced a lot of people into taking blocks of core,
Okay.
which it just feels right and it looks right on a Warhammer table. We were seeing blocks of spearmen
Yeah.
and blocks of archers, and it just felt right, and it made the games really interesting and fun. The comp itself basically deleted all the copy paste builds that you see these days.
Yeah.
There was so much innovation. Walking around the room, every list was refreshing. Every list was innovative. There was only one sort of standard list that survived the comp, which was Mortuary Cult.
Yeah.
But other than that,
That will change. Don't worry.
yeah, it was in my feedback for it. Kill
Yeah.
that one, please. Um, but it was great. It was so refreshing to see all these different lists that everyone had thought about and put in effort and came up with their own ideas. And if you finished your game early and walked around, it really looked like Warhammer. There was blocks of ranked up infantry
Yeah.
contesting each other. I absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. That was the aim of it, is to try and steer it away from one version of this game where it's sort of like all sort of heroes and cavalry, and more into sort of like seeing some bigger ranked units that sort of smashing into each other and make it a little bit more interesting. And I think the different elements help that. There's still some work to do on a few parts, so there will be a version 2 coming out shortly. We've already come up with a few ideas, so I think
Nice.
there's definitely something there. So what's the future holding in store for you? What's your next event? Where are you going? What are you doing? And will you be taking high elves further? Are you going to be playing them again?
I really want to. I was about to say the big downside. The great honor is that I play for Team England and I'll be going to WTC this year.
Yeah.
So it's really on me to play as much vampire counts as I can to really get as good as I can. I was ranked 1 VC player in the country last year, and I aim to be that again. So I feel like I have a good understanding of them, but there's lots of ways to play VC that I never have really tested. So I need to
Yeah.
get into that. But I played an event this weekend just gone as well, and I missed I missed playing high elves, that's for sure. I was
It's
playing vampire counts. I just missed the movement and
yeah.
the lores are really engaging lores.
Yeah.
Elementalism, high magic. These are fun lores to play. Next big event for me will be Forgotten North GT.
That's beginning of May, I think, isn't it?
Beginning of May, I've got second place here from last year's one.
So you're looking to improve.
Yeah, which it holds a very dark place in my heart because I lost it by 1 battle point over the 5 games. I
Brutal.
lost it to my beloved teammate Dave Bruce's Poison Goblin Star.
You're the only person I have ever heard refer to Dave Bruce as beloved.
Oh, he is beloved. Don't worry.
I'm sure even his wife probably doesn't agree with you there, but
Yeah.
he's sort of the boogeyman of the north.
His list is evil. He is lovely.
Fair. It's just hate the player, hate the game, not the player.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got some vengeance to deal at that event, especially because I was on table 1. I beat my opponent 17-3. I thought this is wrapped up,
Brilliant.
and it was command and control, and we just sort of handshook and ended the game. I had a banshee that could just walked into the objective and taken it,
Yep.
and that would have won me the event. But I didn't even. I thought I've just smashed table 1.
Yeah. Of course, you think that's it. It's solid. It's done.
Let's shake hands and go look at the other games and have a bit of a good time. We don't need to play turn 6. We're all right. Yeah. Galactically big error.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like sometimes at events, it comes down to tiniest margins, and this is why I am personally anal about making sure you've got all the victory points correct, making sure you're calculating all the banner bonuses, the general bonuses, all these small little things that you think at the time you're like, maybe I'm being too anal about it, maybe that's just silly, but it can add up. It can make a difference. It can make a difference
Yeah.
in placing. It can even, like you say, make a difference in the final standings. And
Yeah, it's super
if you
important.
if you go away thinking, damn, if I'd only done this bit a little bit differently, then it might have resulted in a different result. So I think it's definitely worthwhile. It's one of these top tips you only really pick up at a highly competitive level,
Yeah.
and I think that's definitely something that people need to watch out for if they want to do well at events. So I wish you luck in Forgotten North.
Thanks.
Definitely wish you luck in WTC. We will be facing each other, I'm sure, again, as we have a Home Nations event coming up in this summer.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
That which will be fantastic. I think that's really going to be fun, and there'll be a lot of banter about that. So yeah, it's not over yet. I'm sure we'll cross each other, and I hope that High Elves will draw you back at some point with all their fun little tricksy items and bits and pieces and all the different ways you can win. So thank you very much for coming on. Very much appreciate it. Is there anything you want to give a
Great
shout out
pleasure.
to, or anything that you want to say before we head off?
No, just to the Aussie comp authors and the hosts of the Dragon's Grudge event. Thank you for such a sensational comp pack that
Thank you.
breathed a lot of life. A game that is very full of life and doing extremely well, but you can always breathe a bit more in. And had a great time. Really look forward to the next one.
Good, I'm glad. Thank you very much. And you folks as well, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and informative. If you think it's worth sharing, smash that like button, give us a subscribe. Ask any questions. Charlie and I will be, Charlie's always in the comments, always commenting on all this stuff, so I do appreciate that. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you on another video soon. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.